Welcome to the Celtic Way Morning Briefing Live. I'm Tony Haggerty, Haggerty10 Twitter handle. Guess who's back? Shady's back, or Daddy's back. I'm delighted to be joined by @Martin TCW, and I think you'll all join me in a round of applause. Say congratulations to Sean, Heather, and the birth of your first little daughter, young Sophia. How is everybody, Sean?
I'm back with a bang, Tony. Back with a bang. No, everybody's fine and dandy, much to my wife's annoyance, I was saying it's great that Sophia get brought into a world where Callum McGregor was actually on the pitch, mask and all. But no, everybody's fine. Cheers.
Excellent. New Celtic daddy, or was it P Diddy or P Daddy? I don't know what to call you now. Probably just call you Sean. Wish them all the best from me, Sean. Right, on to matters. Celtic, Sean. Celtic go 3 points clear at the top of the table with a win over bottom side Dundee 3-2. Now, Sean, good, the bad and the ugly about to come out. We've missed the depth charts, but I'm sure you'll be back with a vengeance with that quite soon. We'll talk about the good. The 3 points clear at the top and a Georgios Giakoumakis hat trick. Wonderful for a man that never really touched the ball that many times, Sean.
No, it was. Listen, all three of those finishes were like the finishes that I was telling you and Alison before I knocked off there. That is what he needs: a ball across the 6-yard box. He'll get a wee run on a defender, and better than that was all three were timely. It wasn't stat padding goals. All three were needed. All three were the reason that the Celtic got the win. So he's been kind of threatening, isn't he? The last couple of weeks, he's got a couple of goals, but he's had the kind of unlucky streak, if you want to put it that way, where keepers are coming up with really big saves against him. He's getting his selling at the positions, and he just wasn't necessarily getting as many goals as it looked like he should. And then that all clicked yesterday and ended up with 3. So no, he thoroughly deserved it. He also is, in my opinion, definitely improving his off the ball, not just his work rate, but the way that he's applying himself off the ball. I think that also endears himself to the fans as much as the fact he's getting himself into these positions to score as well.
Perfect hat trick, Sean. Right foot, left foot, header. Can't ask for much more than that, especially when chances were few and far between yesterday.
I mean the kind of chances that they did create were enough to win the game, obviously, because they did. But in general terms, even if they had, even if, for instance, one of them hadn't gone under, they still done enough creatively to create enough to win the game. The other end is where it became close, I suppose you could argue, because otherwise I don't think it would have been. Overall, I don't actually think they were particularly great, Celtic, yesterday. I think probably, obviously, Giakoumakis for getting his hat trick. I thought Ralston had a decent game. Apart from that, I wasn't enamoured by a lot of the players yesterday. I thought it was a kind of stodgy performance in general, but nonetheless, still scored 3 goals, still went 3 points clear.
Now, Sean, Giakoumakis was a hit on the park and then goes off the park and opens his big trap. Now, for those of you who don't know or haven't seen what Giakoumakis said after the game, he told, I think it was broadcast, that Celtic will win the league and they were a better team than Rangers in every department, really. I think that was the gist of it, Sean, wasn't it?
Right about that, I mean, it depends on the way you want to view it. I think it has been bold, but at the same time, I don't think he was wrong in anything that he said. Whether you could argue about the wisdom of actually saying it in public, that's the way that he considers it. But I think he's probably right. I mean, I don't know what your own thoughts are on it yourself, but I mean, if you're going to make the argument that that's going to be extra motivation across the road and Ibrox, then I would argue that if that's what's got to motivate them, then he's almost even more right. If you want to put it that way. So I don't really have a problem with it. It's actually a wee bit refreshing to see somebody having the kind of bravado to say, no, I think we are actually better. I think we're better in all departments and stuff.
I don't have a problem with what he said. My problem comes with maybe voicing it publicly, Sean. If that's what you genuinely believe, I'm maybe old school in that I think you keep that in-house. Just my own thoughts. And like what you do, like what he did yesterday, you do your talking on the park, and nobody can argue with that. I think most Celtic players are motivated by the fact they want to play in the Champions League and the money and the prestige that comes with that. I think that's motivation enough for any team, even the team that play in the south side of the city. So I think I don't think Rangers need any motivation at all, to be honest. But I think things like that. I remember, was it Yelovich said it years ago?
Yes, it was actually 10 years ago.
Nicola Yelovich said it,
10 years ago.
2011-12, wasn't it? And
Yep.
I think Rangers went 12 ahead in November, and he said the title was in the bag.
That's it.
Thing, so I'm never a lover of players saying that, and everybody always refers to Alan Hansen's you'll never win the league with kids. So there's been various instances when things come back to bite you, and I don't know if I accept if he's a confident guy. I think he's spoken before. He says he's quite confident, and that's the kind of thing. But I'm not too sure if Ange will be pleased with that. And I think you might find Georges Giakoumakis taking a step down from media duty for a wee while. Sean, would you think?
He'll never a choice to matter if he keeps scoring hat tricks, to be honest. But I do see your point, and obviously it is about doing it on the pitch as well. But he's almost, the other stuff that he said after it, you've got to remember, wasn't just we're better than that. That's just my opinion, that kind of thing. He was saying about sticking to Postecoglou's plan, and that is how they're going to show that they're better. So he did kind of try and almost rescue Silly a little bit. But at the end of the day, I do think he was being honest. I don't think he was just blowing his own trumpet for the reason that he scored the hat trick. I think he is being honest. Whether as you say, whether it was the time to do it or not is a different question. But
there's a phrase in Glasgow, Sean. It's no saying it, it's doing it. That's what I mean. So I think Ange and David Bradley comes in here and says Cal Mack will have a word with him, Tony. I think Cal Mack and his manager will have a word with him, take him aside and say, shut your big man, but listen, there's an air of confidence, and I guess he was just letting everybody know, and if that's the way people say things and do things, fine, fine well that's going to get latched upon, isn't it? Or latched upon, and we'll make the headlines. So we'll see how it goes. But Sean, yesterday, Achilles heel again. Sean, 2 goals conceded from set pieces. Now, this is not an Ange problem. It's been dogging Celtic for a long, long time, but it's still underlying, isn't it? And, you look to your centre-half to be kind of dominant in those positions. Sometimes your goalkeeper as well. We spoke off here, you thought Joe Hart could maybe have made a better contribution. That's fair enough. But I do think in these kind of set pieces that you're looking to Cameron Carter-Vickers and Starfelt to be dominant there, aren't you? From corners and free kicks. And I'm especially thinking of the second goal when they allowed Ryan Sweeney to run on both of them, and he's got in between two. And how none of them can see that and deal with that is pretty frightening, isn't it?
The second goal in particular, I think it's the centre-back's eye. I think both of them they're either side of Sweeney, and he kind of shows a good wee bit of strength and movement to get in between the two of them. And to be honest, the two of them were kind of embarrassed by that, I would think. But the first goal, Hart doesn't come for it, which, to be honest, I mean, anybody that watches him regularly, it's no surprise. He rarely does come to try and claim anything.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, what's worse is nobody else seems to clock Mullen just hanging about by himself.
Yeah.
That was that was the worst part of it. I think O'Reilly was closest to him, but the attempt to close him down was almost an afterthought. As I say, I think Hart definitely could have come for it, but given that he very rarely does that, I don't think that his teammates can therefore expect him to come for it, and they should be more alert to the danger that was there, and simply they weren't. Simon
from Fideni comes in. I thought Big CCV was uncharacteristically poor. So, well, I spoke to Sean off air, and I agree. Simon, I think Cameron Carter-Vickers has been rock solid, but his last few performances, he slipped from that very high standard that he set. I share your opinion. Sean, do you share that? Do you think Cameron Carter-Vickers might be one that maybe needs a rest, or he's just played a lot of football in it? And I am going to couch this by saying the players are being asked to play a lot of football, and also if they're training at that high intensity, then there can be things like fatigue. Sean, creeping in.
Obviously, I mean, three games a week basically, but the fact that it's centre back as well, I've said before. Obviously, wrote the article on it at the start of the season when Ange had chopped and changed a few times, that he said himself that's not a position he wants to have to rotate if he can avoid it. And I think you see that because invariably it's Carter Vickers and Starfelt together, even if one's maybe not playing particularly well or there's maybe an opportunity to rest. It very rarely does he take that opportunity. He does play the two of them more often than not. So I wouldn't be surprised if there is a wee bit of fatigue setting in. But in terms of yesterday's performance alone, I thought both of them looked a wee bit stodgy on the ball, and I don't mean in terms of accuracy, because they were accurate with their passing. It was more in kind of speed of thought, how quickly they were releasing it, how quickly they were getting it up through the stages. Now, both of them, Carter Vickers, I would say, is better at it than Starfelt, but Starfelt does try, and he has been improving in that sense as well. But yesterday, I just felt that the two of them, in terms of the speed of the releasing stuff, was a wee bit off. So that's maybe why it came across that Carter Vickers, obviously you're talking about specifically, but maybe that's why it came across he was a wee bit off the boil. He did have a decent kind of sweep up near the end. It was kind of crucial near the end. But regardless, I don't think it was one of his best games. I don't think it was horrible. I don't think Starfelt was horrible either, though. As I said earlier on, I just don't think it was a particularly great performance in general. I don't think Juranovic done. I mean, he done all right at left back. I still think you lose a bit of him when he's playing there. I think it's better with a natural lefty, whether that was Taylor or Scales. I thought Ange had kind of learned that already. I don't think that's where Juranovic should play. But on the other hand, Ralston really played well. I thought he was probably one of the only kind of ones that I thought actively played well, got his assist for the winner as well. So I don't think, I mean, you talked about McGregor off camera as well, that you thought he'd done all right by his own high standards. It maybe wasn't great, but by no means was he poor, that kind of thing. I just don't think, apart from Giakoumakis and Ralston, I don't think it was a great performance from anyone, really.
Yeah, but they still won the game, Sean. And
they did, and that's the thing, yeah.
And they still took a major psychological lift by going 3 points ahead, because I think when you left to go on paternity leave, there were 6 points adrift, weren't they?
I'll just head off again.
Please don't. Yeah, so it's been a remarkable turnaround, Sean, in those few weeks. But as Ange said after, someone said, is this a pivotal game? And he said no, because anything can happen. So in 3 weeks, Celtic have gone, was that 9 point turnaround, 9 point swing?
9 point swing. I mean, it's a clever way to say it, but in reality, you know, and I know, every game is a massive game at that point. I mean, especially when Celtic were doing the chasing. I've seen a couple of kind of views that it's better to be the ones leading, and it is better to be the ones leading in the sense that it's in your own hands. But when you're chasing, there's an expectation that it's not really there if you're leading, if you know what I mean. You need to keep it up, you need to do it. Not that I'm saying they can afford to slip up at all, because they still can't, but it is a different type of pressure when you're leading. Yeah,
very much so, Sean. And 11 to go, Sean. You know, the
very close, isn't it? It's surprised it's crept up on us a wee bit, but
the equation's simple. If they win, if they keep winning, they win the title. I mean, that's they are, and Celtic are firmly in the driving seat now.
Well, that is the thing. You just keep winning, and you win a league. That's it. It sounds simple, and despite what Big Giakoumakis says, it is going to be difficult for the last 11 games, I would think. But no, I mean, going back to yesterday again, and I know there's a few comments here about the set pieces and stuff, and I probably agree with a couple that says they need set piece coaches by the looks of it, because, I mean, as you say, it predates Ange. But even despite all of that, at the end of the day, despite the fact that I'm saying the performance wasn't great, 3 goals and 3 points, meaning a 3-point gap at the top, you cannot argue with that either.
Yeah, I mean, if we've spoken before, if you'd have said to someone in June, come February, get into March, in the middle of February, you'd be 3 points clear at the top, you would have taken that scenario from what he inherited, Sean. You know, so it's testament to the job that he's done, and it's testament to the Celtic players that they've manoeuvred themselves into that position. But and a couple of comments there as well, I've seen the performances drop, the levels drop, the intensity drop past 2 or 3 games. You know, which again I go back to, is there fatigue there? What's the problem? You know.
Well, I take your point, because obviously my depth charts and all that, the whole thing was, once he's got more depth, the intensity shouldn't be dropping, because there's been more like-for-like quality to come in, and I've obviously said it for months that it wasn't his plan not working. It was when it isn't quite there, having the players to come off the bench and reinvigorate it and all that. And he has got that now, and he's got obviously the opportunity to make 5 subs a game and all of that. So I suppose that is a kind of a worry. It's a small worry at this point in time because they're still getting the results, especially domestically. But it is something to watch out for if the levels, as you call it, if the levels keep dropping a wee bit.
I mean, it was a great result. I mean, I'm not taking anything away from the fact that the Celtic have, that's a big step they've taken to go 3 ahead. They've got some breathing space. Another thing as well, Sean, do you think that was a penalty yesterday? I thought it was a stone
What, the elbow? I thought it was a penalty and a red card for violent conduct.
The barge on Giakoumakis in the box.
Aye, the elbow on Giakoumakis. Aye, I thought it was a red card. Aye, definitely. Aye.
That's fine. I thought I was seeing things, but just blatantly ignored. But
no, it was a blatant elbow for me. Aye, I thought it was. No intent to play any sort of spherical object except his head. But
that was just a strange decision for me. I mean, it turned out it didn't have any great bearing on the contest, but it could have had it not. Well, it wasn't given. And it was. I think Celtic winning 2-1 at the time.
Mm-hmm.
I think they were. So could have been a wee bit more comfortable for Celtic. But they've got tricky away games coming up. Sean, Hibs and Livingston. Livingston being the previous 8. And this is all the pressure's going to get ramped up. So they have to go there and win, Sean. Bottom line, they have to now show that they've got it, what it takes. Do you see Bottle being a big factor in the next 11?
Always a big factor with Celtic. You've got to have a Bottle because you can have all the talent, but sometimes sometimes it does come down to the Bottle. I think with that Livingston game, because you don't want to look past the games to come before that, but with that Livingston game, I don't want to over-egg it as bigger than what it actually is, because obviously the kind of the bogey thing, it's not the team, it's the ground, if anything. Like no problems beating Livingston at Parkhead and stuff. It just seems to be Almondvale they've got a wee problem with. So I want almost a statement when you go there this time. Not that I think they weren't going there looking to win the last time either, but you know what I mean. I want a kind of a statement, no airs and graces about it. Just make sure you've done it and kind of exercise that ghost, and don't give any clutching at straws on, or they can't win at Almondvale, that kind of thing. But
shall we ask Ange if we can do the team talk, Sean? get it right in about it and tell them, make a statement. Yeah, I get what you mean. And I know Celtic have got games before that. Obviously, they've got the European game coming up on Thursday, Sean.
Yep.
Get your thoughts on the first leg. What was your thoughts on that? A below par performance, really, wasn't it?
It was, but I've got to give a lot of credit to Bodo Glimt. I mean, they had their number.
Yep.
That's the way I would put it. It was disappointing to see because it was at Parkhead. You don't want that to be the case. But as we spoke about when the draw came out and stuff, that there were no mugs. They've lost players, obviously, and I think they maybe took people by surprise, even though they lost players that they played in the manner that they did. But the group stages, I mean, they absolutely thrashed Roma, and I know Roma rested a few players, but they still absolutely thrashed them. 6-1 is not a coincidental scoreline. But the fact that it was at Parkhead, Celtic, no matter what Bodo Glimt done in the group stages, Celtic were the favourites and rightly should have been the favourites. So the first leg was disappointing for me on multiple fronts.
They've got a fluid system of playing, Sean. Which I sort of said that through the looking glass, I said in another pod, through the looking glass, it's ideally the way Ange wants to play. In Europe as well, with that quick, slick counter-attacking football and being clinical. He's always talking about that kind of thing. So, I mean, it's not entirely dead in the water. They can rescue it, but you think maybe the deflected goal will have a big bearing on what happens, don't you? The one that made it 3-1.
Aye, but you I mean, no away goals and stuff.
Yeah.
It does help.
It hates that, doesn't it?
Ange, knowing his kind of philosophy on these things, he will be wanting them to go and show the way that they actually can play. And I know that sounds like a platitude, but he genuinely will want them to do that.
Yeah, of course.
He will feel that they did not show that in any way, really, against them on Thursday. And as you said there, it was Bodo Glimt doing that to Celtic and saying, this is the way we play, we'll impose our game, blah, blah, blah. So I think Ange will be sending them out there to do that, because, I mean, we all know he's made it clear he wants to make a statement in Europe, and that's not the kind of statement he wanted to make.
Yes, indeed. Now, we'll be looking ahead to Bodo in the days coming up, and we'll be doing our predicted lineups, Sean. I didn't know too bad with the predicted lineups, to be fair, in your absence. Got a few right. But we'll cast our eye over the Bodo Glimt game on Thursday nearer the time.
Yep.
But for today, I'll say thank you. Another happy Monday. Celtic are 3 points clear at the top of the table. Doesn't matter how you win. It's all about winning. 11 to go. Count them down. Well, welcome back, Daddy Sean. And we'll look forward to hearing your thoughts as we move forward. But love to everybody. Love to your family, all right? And have a great day, guys. All the best. Cheers, Sean. Always enjoy
Nice
your
one, Tony. Cheers, guys.